What I want to talk about now for the private group, where you can't be censored, at least that hasn't happened yet, is there's a situation going on in the world right now. You may have heard about it. It's called an official pandemic.
Yep.
Right? And it's being used as a way to, in the U.S., for example, override the Constitution, which recognizes certain unalienable rights that don't get taken away in any kind of emergency. It's impossible, because if they could be, the rights are meaningless. And what the U.S. documents say for founding the country said it applies to everybody, not just in America, any country in the world. Everybody's got the same rights, and they don't come from governments. So they're overriding that, hoping that nobody has heard of any of that stuff in the last few decades when they've been controlling education.
Yeah.
And they're being told that, well, remedies that work, you know, for example, Dr. Brownstein, you may be familiar with him. He's famous for working with iodine and a lot of things and other nutrients like that. He's had, last time I heard, he had about 100 people with this acute respiratory distress that's not a pneumonia, it's dry, and they kill these patients with ventilators, but that what they really have going on is inability to absorb oxygen, like you're dumped on the top of Mount Everest with no oxygen.
Yep.
And they cure those people in one day with a combination of zinc and hydroxychloroquine. But if you don't want to use a drug that has bad side effects, which even though it's only for one day, hydroxychloroquine does have those effects. They find that they can, like Dr. Brownstein, can fix the ones, I can say cure because we can't be censored here. He can cure patients who aren't too bad with just oral vitamin C, zinc, and some other nutrients. And of course, nano silver wipes out even weaponized viruses in even government tests that got hidden, but they were conclusive with Ebola and things like that. And if they're a little bit worse, he puts a nebulizer with hydrogen peroxide over their nose and mouth. These guys are all cured in one day. And the ones that are really bad, they give them intravenous vitamin C, and they're still cured in one day. All that is censored and called misinformation. So I would imagine that anything you said about homeopathy helping would also be censored. But since we're not going to censor it in this group, what have you seen, if any? See, before I ask that question, actually, a really complicating factor is that, as far as I can tell from what I've looked into, there are no tests for the current virus that originated in a laboratory in North Carolina and was then sent with a grant up from NIH to China, to the weapons laboratory at Wuhan. That's documented.
Yes.
And then it was released from there, which I think was on purpose because they had basically announcements that this was going to be a pandemic right before they released it.
Yeah, when Fauci said, we're going to, this presidency is going to have a surprise epidemic.
A big surprise. Oh, sorry, I told you. But you'll see it. It was amazing. And of course, the news won't mention anything about that. But when it was released, of course, it started mutating like other viruses do. And at this point, I don't think there's any test for it. And they're using the language, they've switched over to calling it testing for coronavirus, which is this generic family with officially 36 members, most of which cause no trouble, but it probably has a lot more. And so the tests have also been contaminated, and 80% false positives, and it looks like they'll be used to just show exploding numbers so they can do things to you.
Yeah, and apparently 30% false negatives according to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. And the false negative wouldn't even mean anything if they can't define what it's a negative for.
Yeah, I had a friend who was in hospital, tested negative for COVID, and they were like, no, this must be COVID. It's 30% false negatives.
Exactly, and CDC, which over here we've learned the real name is Centers for Disease Creation and Proliferation, is sending memos to doctors and pathologists and undertakers and morticians and saying, if you think you're just in a mood that it might be COVID-19, please call that the cause of death, and we'll never review it, so don't worry. And so they also give hospitals massive amounts of money to diagnose it as that with no test.
13,000 per patient, was it?
Yeah. So in that environment where you can't get any meaningful information other than about the fraud, in your experience with, I don't know if you've come across anybody personally in your practice that has a non-pneumonia respiratory distress with no fluid in the lungs and this inability to use oxygen. If you've come across anybody like that, and if so, what's happened?
So I actually did use the homeoprophylaxis in my practice. I gave it to many, many people, their families, asked them to share it with others.
To prevent it, right?
To prevent it.
Okay.
The second I got my hands on the remedy, I got it out to as many people as possible. And so it really seems that no one from within my practice has come down with anything.
Okay.
I do think COVID-19 is real.
Me too.
I do think it's widely prevalent. I got really sick in August of last year in California, and I had those symptoms. And I've started asking whether I may have had it back then, actually.
So you felt like you couldn't get oxygen, but you could breathe fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a feeling like my lungs didn't want to fill with oxygen. I was exhausted. I had a dry cough, palpitations, and a feeling that I couldn't get enough air. And I actually was in California and went up in, what was strange was I went up into Mammoth Lakes, and at altitude I felt better than I did
interesting.
in San Diego. So I don't know what happened to me then. I treated it with a homeopathic remedy called sepia, which really cleared it up for me.
Okay. How quickly?
Once I finally figured out what remedy to use, it took maybe a week, but I was sick for maybe like a month.
Yeah. I think that sounds like what they created in the labs. I'm just saying they're not using a test for it.
No, well,
you don't want just those people.
Yeah, and the corona test that they're using, regardless of whether there's false negatives or false positives, it also doesn't test for COVID-19, tests for corona in general.
They need the numbers.
Yeah. So like there's no, and having talked to some very highly esteemed immunologists and doctors out there, there is no reliable data anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So what is the homeopathic preventive? Right.
So there's a few around the world right now. India, as a country, has implemented a remedy called Arsenicum album.
Now, if people write down this name that you're saying, can they get
arsenic, it's widely available. The pharmacies are often out right now in the U.S.
Okay.
Because there was such a run on the remedy and so much demand for it.
Arsenicum,
which is a Latin word for arsenic.
Right, arsenicum.
Album, which means white in Latin.
ALBUM?
Right.
Okay.
So that's what India put in place. If you look at their statistics, they have very low per capita cases of COVID right now.
How widely are they distributing that preventive? I mean, they have 1 billion people over there? More than
yes, I really can't answer that question. They've used it before for H1N1. When I was in India filming, they were dispensing it there in Andhra Pradesh. So there were billboards everywhere announcing people should get the remedy. Every homeopathic hospital was dispensing it, and people were lining up. At large public events, they would set up tables to give it to people. So, but what happened in India is first the Ministry of Ayush, which is a ministry basically of natural and alternative medicine, or of Indian medicine, and homeopathy. It's an acronym, and the H at the end of Ayush stands for homeopathy. They declared that arsenicum was to be the preventative remedy. And then something happened, and they were shut down and told that they couldn't say this anymore.
Wow.
And that happened for a period of time, and then recently it's come back. So now they're allowed to state they're allowed to treat COVID, and they're allowed to say that arsenicum is a preventative remedy.
Wow. Are they giving any kind of report about the results, about percentage of people who recover and stuff like that?
I haven't seen anything, no.
Okay.
I mean, we're still very early on, and to be honest, I don't think India has the best system in place to record that stuff accurately when they're doing things in this way with so much data on paper. So it takes them a long time to compile.
Okay.
The Hong Kong Association of Homeopathy recommended another remedy called gelsemium. They recommended bryonia.
Well, can you spell these? Because I'm hoping people will pay attention.
So gelsemium is GELSEMIUM.
Okay.
And the other one, bryonia, BRYONIA.
Okay.
And one more is eupatorium, which is EUPATORIUM.
ATORIUM.
Yeah, ATORIUM.
Okay.
And no data. I don't have any data from there as to how effective that's been.
Okay.
There's also, if you reach out to a homeopath, you may be able to get your hands on the nosode, the remedy made from the actual sputum of people who've had COVID-19.
What's it called?
So it's called COVID-19, and we call it a nosode, NOSODE.
Are there a whole bunch of different nosodes, so you have to know which one you're talking about?
For that, you really need to contact a homeopath, and because we don't want to oust who's making it, we don't want the FDA to come after them.
Okay, yeah, exactly. But they could get information of that from an appointment with you, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, or yes, they could. As a patient, I'm allowed to prescribe.
If you're looking at these 4 remedies, and I mean not remedies, but preventives that you listed, and you're trying to figure out which one you would use for yourself, how would you choose?
The problem is, I would go with the nosode, which
I thought the nosode was the remedy, not the preventive.
The nosode we use it's a remedy, which is a preventative.
It works for both, in other words.
So we call all our medicines remedies.
Okay.
And they can serve as a preventative, or they can serve as a treatment.
Okay, that's interesting. So all these 4 that you mentioned are both.
Right, and if they match the symptom picture, then it's appropriate for treatment. Now, not knowing with the symptom picture of COVID changing so rapidly, consistently.
Right.
It looks like arsenicum is making an impact in India, but not having that data, knowing how, in Cuba, they've done 7 campaigns officially using nosodes to stop epidemics, and they've all been successful. So I would, for my own experience, I would very much consider doing the nosode.
Okay, and that you need to get from a practitioner somewhere.
From a practitioner.
Right, because a lot of natural food stores are having shelves full of remedies, right?
Yes, but none of them will sell that. It's illegal to sell in the U.S. To someone. It's illegal. You need a doctor's prescription to legally sell that remedy.
When you say
it's
a
not
doctor,
over the counter.
What kind of doctor?
You actually need a medical doctor, but there's been some interesting loopholes that have been used, so some people have access to the.
Because you're saying the nosode is really the best one, and you have to get it from a practitioner.
Yeah.
But you're saying that has to be maybe authorized by a medical doctor.
Correct. It has to be authorized by a medical doctor. So the practitioners have been authorized by medical doctors to use the remedy. And there are homeopaths who are medical doctors as well.
So the way to specify this is it's a nosode for COVID-19.
Correct.
Okay.
Here in Canada, as a homeopath, as a regulated health professional, I can use whatever remedy, whether available over the counter or not, that I deem as appropriate for my patient.
Okay, but if you have a patient online from the U.S. And you say, well, you should have this no-sode. And they say, well, how am I supposed to get it?
I will guide you on how to get it.
Okay, so there is a way to get it.
Yeah.
So if they have an appointment with you, it's not running into this impossible situation.
Right.
Okay, good.
I'm also going to be putting up online next week we're calling it the Homeopathic Guide to 2020. And it's going to be available for free. And it goes over, it does talk about homeoprophylaxis in a very generalized manner.
Okay.
But it also goes over the remedies that, as a homeopathic community, we have felt have been the most responsive and the most effective so far. So there are people all over the world starting to maintain databases of information, and we're all working together, meeting regularly, giving our experiences, the symptom picture, the remedy, did it work, did it not, how well did it work, what stage of disease was a person in. So we're collecting a lot of data. And it's beautiful to see the homeopathic community coming together, working so closely together.
Right.
So, yes, this guidebook will give you some of the basic, easy to find remedies that may be helpful in the early stages of COVID.
When you said something gives you the basics, I couldn't quite hear that.
The guidebook that me and a colleague have written. So if you sign up for our mailing list, you will hear when it's out. It'll be up on our website next week.
Oh, good. Okay.
And
so
it's free.
Almost ready. Is that in the form of an ebook or a solid copy?
No, it's a PDF.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to continue to update it. So as more knowledge comes out and as we learn more and different practitioners have new experiences, we will put that in there.
Okay. So everything is accessible by going to RiverdaleHomeopathy.com.
No, that one is going to be at Magic Pills Movie.
Okay. MagicPillsMovie.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you put watch dot in front of that, you can see the movie.
Yes.
Okay. Neat. So I guess if you want to simplify this down to the bottom line, if somebody wants to use homeopathy, they should go to a practitioner and find out the way to use it so it's going to work.
Yeah, because it requires a little bit of knowledge to use, to apply it correctly. I mean, there is a huge demand for homeopathy right now. The pharmacies are struggling to keep up. And the one concern I have is that people are maybe reading something, oh, this remedy is good for this, and then trying to use it and applying it incorrectly, and then coming to the conclusion that homeopathy doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm sure that's happening a lot because it's the simplest way to do it. Skip the knowledge part.
Right.
So
there have been some hotlines set up to help support people who can't afford access to a homeopath. Okay. There is a website, Homeopathy Help Now.
Homeopathy Help Now.
And that's in the US and I think maybe in Israel now as well.
Okay.
And they're providing free homeopathic care.
That's .com, right?
Yep.
Free care. Wow, how nice. And
in Canada, there is one at, let me look it up. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Okay.
It's ochm.ca/ ochm.ca/SOS.
Oh, you better do that again slowly. What is it?
OCHM, which is the acronym for the Ontario College of Homeopathic Medicine.
Okay.
.ca.
Okay.
//SOS.
Okay. There's no .com because it's a .ca instead, right?
Correct.
Okay. And on the
and they will
Homeopathy Help Now is .com. That right?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
And both these organizations will put you in touch with a very good homeopath to help support you for free of charge, only the cost of the remedies, I believe.
Wow, that's amazing. The reason I'm so interested in this is because I think the whole thing about real medicine, which I don't see, I don't equate that with toxic chemicals. It's like something that, like Hippocrates said, do no harm, right? Not don't do too much harm and only kill a few people. He was, don't do any harm. Yeah. Right? That's what no means, is not any. And so if you come out with something that is shown to really help people, even if it weren't 100%, just to help people but not hurt anybody, that's really spectacular. I mean, almost anybody would want access to that if they understood. And,
it's so affordable, it's so effective, it's so deep. Like, we don't believe that the body and the emotions and the mind are separate. For us, they all affect each other. And
yeah, definitely.
And that's the only way to really get to the source of an illness.
And so you're not denying the importance of the details in your life should not be damaging to yourself. You still have to look at that. But to have a boost and get over what is currently really stopping you at the moment, these remedies and preventives have an incredibly important role.
Yeah, I'll talk about my experience with mental health, with depression. What it gave me was the realization that no matter how, these illogical feelings and thoughts I was having, even though I knew they were illogical, I didn't feel that way.
Right.
And what it somehow did is it gave me that perspective and that at a deeper level where I could really kind of digest that and sit well with it. And the depression it was no longer needed. It wasn't a reaction that my psyche needed to produce anymore.
Right. And it's all one unit, basically. It's just compartmentalized artificially. Yeah. Right.
So can meditation come to that same result? Absolutely. Can spiritual work come to that same result? Absolutely. Put them together? Or,
why
therapy.
Not just do everything good that you could, right?
Right. I've more recently become aware of work like the Rife frequencies. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am.
And we have a lot of machines that also use homeopathic frequencies. And I've been experiencing how effective they are firsthand.
They're good if the frequencies are accurate.
Correct.
And the big danger with Rife is they get, like playing telephone, they get gradually changed. And nobody knows where they went off track.
But with, we can measure, the homeopathic frequencies, record them. We can take new pathologies and work the way homeopathy works, which is using that same frequency of that substance.
What about putting frequency into water without any physical substance?
People are doing that.
Yeah, that can work too, right?
Yeah. And it's so elegant to me. And it really doesn't cause harm to the physical body.
That's what's shocking now, because everybody's been trained to accept, it might kill you, but that's really the best we have.
Yes.
And you're not actually doing that.
No. And I think there is so much in natural medicine I'm just being hit by how barbaric what we consider modern medicine to be. To me, it really doesn't seem to have evolved much from applying mercury to people and bleeding them.
Right. I mean, it would be, in most cases, it would be better to use the leeches than what people are actually consuming.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to learn homeopathy without physically going to a brick and mortar school, are there recommended best places to learn it, do you think?
Yeah. Let me find the name of the school. So there's the Ontario College of Homeopathic Medicine, who I just gave the website ochm.ca. They've got some great programs there.
And that's online too?
That's online. They have in-person and online. They do both. And then I'm just trying to remember what Denise's school, let me find it. Give me one moment. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
The Academy of Homeopathy Education, AHE.
Academy of Homeopathy Education.
Yeah, and they're based in New York.
Okay.
And two incredible people run that school, which is Denise I'm going to butcher her last name, Strages, I think that's how you pronounce it. And as I'm forgetting, Alistair Gray. Two wonderful homeopaths, and the education there is fantastic as well.
I mean, it just sounds super valuable to me that a lot more people need to learn how to actually use it. It's not you walk into Whole Foods and, just buy the remedies. You have to know a little bit more about it, right?
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing to learn because it opens you have to learn so much about everything.
Yeah.
So it really opens your eyes to so many different aspects of our world and our natural world.
Right, yeah.
And we need more practitioners. We need more people to study this. Right now, it's becoming an old profession. There's very few young people practicing. And when I started studying, it was full of young people.
Wow, so just in that short time, it's fallen off.
Yeah.
I guess that's because of the mainstream education that it's a bad thing.
Correct, yeah. So, it's a beautiful craft and we need to keep it alive. It was banned and almost lost in the US once before. Okay. And it was thanks to mothers that homeopathy was kept alive.
So is there a current danger that it could be banned again in the US anytime soon?
Yeah. I would say maybe not banned, but access to homeopathic remedies very limited.
So it wouldn't be banned, you just couldn't get it.
Right.
And is that up to the FDA? I mean, what's going to...
That's up to the FDA.
Okay. Anything that people can do to resist that or not?
Yeah. So as I'd mentioned for the previous audience, there is a website, homeopathychoice.org, I believe. Let me check that as well. Yeah, .org.
.org, okay.
And this organization, this powerhouse of an organization, was founded by mothers, not homeopaths. So that makes it particularly powerful because homeopaths can't make any claims about homeopathy. And we're seen as an interest group.
That's a really important statement. Homeopaths can't say that homeopathy works.
Correct.
That's interesting. Okay.
While these mothers are not at risk of being sued, losing their licenses to practice.
They'd have to fire them as a mother or something like that.
Exactly. And they're providing the information from their experiences. So Paola Brown, who's one of the founders, and she's the president, her experience with homeopathy started when she was diagnosed with, what's it called? I'm losing the new one. It's a type of chronic cystitis that's an autoimmune disease, and it's incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And conventional medicine has nothing for it.
Except painkillers, right?
Yeah.
Narcotics and stuff.
Correct. Interstitial cystitis. That's what it's called.
Right, okay.
And so the doctor passes Paola a brochure for the opioid addiction support group, which to help her prepare for the opioid addiction that she will have as a way of dealing with the pain of this condition. For
the rest of her life, because it'll get worse instead of better.
Well, and because she's going to be now dependent on these life-altering drugs.
Right.
And she thought to herself, this can't be. There has to be a better way.
Yeah.
And someone recommended to her homeopathy. She tried it. It resolved the condition. And it completely changed her outlook on life.
Wow.
And it's the medicine that she uses with her families and her children. And she's helped to educate so many mothers and giving them the skills to use homeopathy for acute conditions in their home. And this has empowered women so much. And in the US, like here in Canada, medicine on one level is free. We don't pay out of pocket for it. But in the US, I've heard so many stories of people losing their homes after, a medical condition. And when you have this medicine that is so affordable and offers such a viable alternative,
Right.
It changes people's lives.
So is going to the school and learning how to do it, is that super expensive, and how long does it take?
I think it depends on the school. My program was 3 years.
Okay.
And it was quite expensive. I think it was around $25,000 for the 3 years.
Okay.
But I can't tell you. I don't know what the schools charge right now.
So
I know Ontario College of Medicine has a very, very good introductory program online that's $1,800 Canadian.
Okay.
And takes, I think, about.
And so if you're after if your priority is to learn how to use it rather than become a certified practitioner,
right,
you could do that introductory course or something like that.
Yeah, it's an excellent course for that. And I think probably AHE has something like that as well. There are so many books out there. There are so many websites with great information. There's a woman named Joette Calabresi who has some programs online. She very specifically works with Banerjee protocol, so it's not necessarily classical homeopathy. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people have been very helped by that. And there's another woman, Sue, I'm blocking out her last name. She has a podcast called Homeopathy for Mommies.
Great.
And she also has a program to teach you how to use some basic homeopathy. And me and some colleagues are working on putting something together as well right now. But it's still a few months away. Okay.
Well, still everybody should start by watching the movie. And that's at watch.magicpillsmovie.com, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, hold on and we'll say goodbye again in the break here.